First of all, I'd like to thank the audience for joining our webinar today. I'm Miranda Burke, and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at SNP and your host. Today's 30-minute webcast is being recorded, and all registrants will be sent the link to the recording and the presentation at the end. Questions can be asked at any time via the chat function on the side of your screen, and we'll answer them either throughout the presentation or at the end. And as you know, you have the flexibility to adjust the screen size, and you can find that expand button right in the middle of your screen directly below the speaker boxes. All right, I'm sure you all have saw the announcement a couple of weeks ago regarding SNP's private launch for our data streaming for SAP. That's a Snowflake Native App in the Data Cloud. We're going to dive right in and understand what this really means for SAP customers. Now, introducing my esteemed colleague here today, we have Ben Deaver. He's based out of San Antonio, and he is our Senior Solution Architect Leader here in North America. And with that, Ben, the show is yours.
Thank you so much, Miranda. Well, thank you again. And as Miranda mentioned, if you hadn't heard, a couple of weeks ago at Snowflake Summit, we had a huge announcement in partnership with Snowflake, where SNP Glue is bringing to the table a couple of new capabilities, which are hugely important in the Snowflake ecosystem. Specifically, it's going to be advancing our integration technology so that we're going to be really focused on faster, near real-time data ingestion via the Snowpipe streaming API from your SAP NetWeaver stack. And then second, a native application that's being rolled out in the Snowflake landscape, in the Snowflake ecosystem, where we're going to automatically cost optimize your data transfer into Snowflake, really find ways to be able to have those large, high churn data volumes that take place in those Snowflake ecosystems that are integrated with SAP, and find ways to be able to make that data instantaneously reporting for all of your business value and value driver activities. Now, this native application is currently in private preview, and as it becomes available in the marketplace, it's going to be known as data streaming for SAP. Now, first things first, let's talk about what SNP Glue is. Let's make sure that we have an opportunity to kind of define the product and the tool that we're talking about. So SNP Glue is an enterprise integration tool set that is used specifically for integrating SAP data to a whole host of targets, about 40 different enterprise class storage technologies. Now, today, we're really focusing on Snowflake. I'm a huge Snowflake fan simply because the Snowflake data platform really works, really does what it's advertised to do. And most importantly, because we're finding a great opportunity to be able to mesh your high value SAP data with a whole bunch of other non-SAP data, and Snowflake's really one of the great opportunities to be able to mine the value from that activity. From a data sourcing perspective though, talking about SNP Glue, what is it that we can pull from? Well, you'll see there's a whole list of things that we can pull data from in that SAP NetWeaver ecosystem, but let's simplify what that list is. Any structured data that exists inside of your SAP investment, we can integrate with SNP Glue. So whether it be tables, if it's your custom business logic or your business warehouse extractor framework, whether it be views or BEX queries or specific types of objects like your DSOs, ADSOs that exist on a BW stack. Anything that exists inside of your NetWeaver ABAP investment, structured data, we can integrate that up to Snowflake, period, full stop. Now let's talk about the data processing aspect of it. SNP Glue has a complete and robust transformation layer that's baked into it. You're gonna see it and you're gonna recognize it immediately. Those who have experience with SAP, it's going to look and feel like any other SAP transformation layer that you've experienced inside of predominantly the SAP BW framework, because it's modeled after processes that work. But from our data processing perspective, we have that ability to apply a full-fledged transformation layer, whether that be lookups or enrichment to the data, filtering. We also have the ability, and this is what's really a big differentiator, we have the ability of making sure that we are able to delta or CDC capture data through the application stack for tables that historically have been very difficult to be able to capture deltas upon. And we can talk in more detail about how we can accomplish that, but just know there's a few different options that are available. And again, this is really an important differentiator. We're not just talking about your ERP. We're not just talking about ECC and S4. We're talking about any SAP application that's installed on your NetWeaver on your NetWeaver stack. So your ECC, S4, the various BWs, CRM, SRM, GRC, Solution Manager, any of that enterprise data where you're going to find value to have that in Snowflake is a viable opportunity for you to be able to use SNP Glue to integrate that to the Snowflake Cloud Data Platform. And then again, with data targets, remember, integration with Snowflake, that's really where a lot of our innovation is taking place right now, but still a lot of other data targets that we can also move the data to be able to work within your enterprise ecosystem. So let's jump forward and talk about architecture real quick. From an enterprise landscape, SNP Glue, and this is the important part that I want you to take away, SNP Glue is an add-on product for SAP. So if you're working in the ECC space, it's going to be a NetWeaver certified add-on. If you're working in the S4 space, then it is a certified add-on for S4 via that separate certification process. The important thing to take away is that this is an add-on product. It is certified by SAP, and it installs directly on your NetWeaver stack. So what that means is that there's no additional application stack. There's no additional sustainment process. There's no additional hop that has to take place to be able to move your data into the Snowflake data platform. What it means is that your SAP investment is going to be able to push, so it's not a query model, SAP is going to be able to push the data in a near real-time fashion directly to Snowflake, minimizing the number of hops in between. And because it's being pushed from your SAP system, you're going to have that incredible amount of granular control over how frequently the data is being pushed, exactly what data is being shared. But again, we also, because SNP Glue is sitting on that NetWeaver stack, it's going to have access to all of the information within your SAP NetWeaver investment and can integrate all of that up. So remember, no new application stack, no new sustainment processes that have to be adopted. Your organization already has the skill sets needed to be able to manage SNP Glue. There's no new huge security overhead because the product is developed by SAPers for SAP organizations to be able to fit into their ongoing sustainment practices. So let's talk about some of the new capabilities that we have. So let's talk about how SNP Glue operates today. What's going to happen is SNP Glue is going to have a connection up to your Snowflake Cloud Data Platform. We're going to connect directly to Snowflake's internal staging, and SNP Glue is going to be writing some highly compressed, highly optimized CSV files and depositing those into that Snowflake internal stage. At that point, SNP Glue is going to reach out to Snowflake and say, hey, I've deposited these files that are ready for ingestion, and it's going to execute the bulk copy, bulk insert, bulk merge commands to be able to take all of those staging files and integrate them directly into the staging tables. This can add some latency to the data processing, anywhere from seconds to a couple of minutes, depending on the volume and the complexity of the data. So what we're announcing right now, or rather what was announced a couple weeks ago, but we're still in the process of talking about, is that within SNP Glue, we have worked in partnership with Snowflake to introduce Snowpipe streaming API connectivity. And what that means is that the moment I start pushing data out of your SAP landscape via SNP Glue, and it's pointed up to Snowflake, we are going to be ingesting that data directly into the table within the Snowflake ecosystem. And that data is going to be reportable the moment it's committed. And so what we've done is we have brought that near real-time replication and turned it into a true real-time. And so as fast as the data is being pushed out of your SAP NetWeaver stack ecosystem is as fast as it's going to be available in your Snowflake Cloud Data Platform. This is a huge advancement in the space of near real-time or real-time reporting capabilities for your organization, and is going to be GA available with the next release of SNP Glue, which is actually in the process of being released right now. Now, one thing that I really want for you to take note of here, there's a box that says managed via SNP Glue. Within Glue, we are going to create the staging table inside of Snowflake. So you're not going to have to worry about some nasty create or replace statement for your tables and having to come up with the 300 specific fields and all of the metadata associated with BSEG or ACDACA or any of the other huge and just amazingly complex naming structures that take place in your SAP investment. SNP Glue is going to handle that for you. And so when you look at this, what I want you to take away is that SNP Glue resides on the NetWeaver stack. It's going to be near real-time pushing data out. It's going to be integrating with the Snowpipe streaming API. Data is going to be ingesting into a staging table in that same real-time application. And all of those steps, 100% of that process is going to be managed automatically for you via SNP Glue. So there's no additional meaningful overhead to your teams. So that's Snowflake, that is the Snowpipe streaming announcement that just came out. And I'm gonna go ahead and jump ahead and talk about our native application deployment. So one of the things that you find with SAP data that really is calling for major innovation was that certain types of very, very large data sets where you have a high level of churn in that data set, it's going to span multiple micropartitions inside of Snowflake. And as a result of that, the process of updating that data can have a higher impact both in time and cost of being able to update it effectively. And so in partnership with Snowflake, as well as several customers that were really helping us to explore and solve this particular problem, SNP and Snowflake are really excited to roll out our data streaming for SAP native application. And what the native application is going to do is it allows you to, once again, shift to Snowpipe streaming and bring your real-time changes of your largest and most complex data models into Snowflake in a near real-time fashion. However, instead of having to wait for data to be merged into a main reporting table, we've got this audit log of change data capture, so timestamp changes that have taken place. We are automatically, SNP Glue is automatically going to create the staging table where data is being inserted into, a main table where it's your persistent history, as well as a consumption view that unionizes or builds a union on top of those two tables and provides instant available reporting for all the data as it streams in. And then the native application is actually going to allow you to join or merge the staging table into the main table on a schedule that works best for your organization, whether it be once a day, every 8 hours, however often you want to. The net impact to that is that your data is available for reporting faster. The cost to the organization drops dramatically. And once again, the big value driver here, which is your SAP high value data is available for your customers. Well, it's instantly available as it's being pushed to the Snowflake data platform. Now, once again, all of these components are being managed within SNP Glue and the native application. Now, that native application is in private preview right now. If you would like to be a part of that private preview, please don't hesitate to reach out and we'll be happy to work with you. Our contact information is going to be provided at the end of this presentation. So jumping forward, yes, I'm sorry.
Before we switch to the demo, I just have one question come in. Will the Snowpipe streaming work with SAP Rise, public and or private?
So I know that the short answer is yes. Right now, we are certified with SAP Rise. I believe it's the private cloud edition. I'll have to look into public because
only private. Only private.
Yep, thank you, Joe. So right now it's the private edition. On the public edition, SAP locks down really what add-on products can be added into that ecosystem. And so we'd have to have a separate conversation, but right now I think it's only private.
Thank you, we're good.
Thank you. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into a demo. I'm gonna shut down my All right, so I'm going to pull open my demo landscape. Miranda, can you confirm, are you seeing my SAP landscape right now?
Yes, sir. SAP Easy Access.
Awesome, thank you so much. And we're going to do some integration from one of my demo landscapes up into Snowflake right now. We've got about 14 minutes left in this webinar, and we'll be done well before that. And so SNP Glue resides as an add-on. It's in its own namespace. So you'll see /dvd/glue. So it sits on the NetWeaver stack. If you're experienced with SAP, you'll see this and you'll say to yourself, wow, this really looks familiar. Because at the end of the day, this is in fact what SAP looks like. And so I'm going to go into our generator, and I went ahead and created a variant ahead of time that contains the development I wanted to show you guys. And what we're going to do is we're going to integrate several tables from our material master, S-Flight, and ADRC, which is one of the address tables inside of SAP. And so we're going to do all the development for these tables right now, and we're going to create them in Snowflake. I'm going to click on the generate button. And right now, SNP Glue is reaching out. It's creating my target structures in Snowflake. It's automatically building the transformation layer. It's mapping between various data types, and it is plugging into my source tables and saying, okay, let's get ready to be able to integrate this data up to the Snowflake Cloud Data Platform. Now, the important thing to note is, remember, we have access to the entirety of the data dictionary. We have the access to all metadata that exists inside of our SAP NetWeaver stack. And so, guys, as fast as that was, those 4 or 5 tables that we just listed out, all of those have now been set up to integrate directly into Snowflake. And so just to show there's nothing up my sleeve, let's pull up our Snowflake demo. You can see down here, I hit refresh, and these tables that I was just integrating, we just generated these create or replace statements, generated these tables. You can see that all of my metadata, all of my data typing is coming directly from the SAP stack. And so out of the box with a couple of button clicks, we are already light years ahead of where we would be if we were doing this manually. So let's go ahead and jump back over and show you guys how some of this can run. So I'm going to go into my scheduler, and now it's possible inside of the Object Navigator, obviously, for us to be able to look at and execute any of these activities on an ad hoc basis. We can go in and we can look at any of our structures that are being written. We can mess with any of the fields. We have total control over every aspect of this integration process. We have our extraction processes, which is our orchestration layer. It's also our transformation layer. And so, as I promised, we have, if you're familiar with SAP, start routines, end routines, as well as rule-based transformations that can be put into place. And so you'll see there's a tremendous number of different options that we have that allow us to be able to modify or mess with the data. But one of the important things I do want to point out is that when working with Snowflake, we're really going to work with you as a partner to be able to embrace that ELT pattern and minimize the amount of transformation we're doing in the SAP space, and really try to shift as much transformation up to Snowflake, because at the end of the day, they've got the elastic cloud, cloud platform that really lends itself to that most effectively. So let's actually load some data. Let's actually move some data across. SNP Glue out of the box is going to have a tremendously capable scheduler. And I went ahead and did configure this scheduler ahead of time, where I just pop up my demo and you can see, hey, here's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different tables that I integrated. And let's go ahead and say, I want to restrict the amount of processing power. I'm only going to allow it to use 2 background processes. We'll do some full loads because we've never loaded this data before. And we're going to tell this thing to kick off immediately as soon as I tell it to start. Save it, put her back into display mode. And then for my demo, I'm going to hit start. And very quickly, we'll see that those two processes start running, starts integrating data, and you can see as we're chewing through with those two background processes, the data is flowing up to Snowflake. We're restricting the amount of resources that are actually allowed to be used within our SAP. In this case, it's an S4 landscape. And just that fast, we just moved all of those tables and integrated them up into our Snowflake landscapes. Let's pull up Snowflake again and take a look. ADRC, we do a quick data preview, and you'll see now we do have data within our ecosystem. Flip down to Mara, same thing. And so quite honestly, within SNP Glue, it is that easy for us to be able to very rapidly replicate data from your SAP NetWeaver investment, be able to push it to your Snowflake Cloud Data Platform, and make that data reportable and ready for you to use in whatever value-driving process you want to pursue. And yeah, and full, that was the entirety of our the development process. Let me go ahead and open up some of the. I think we saw something in the chat. Do we have any other questions that had come in? Oh no, looks like it was just somebody posting the RISE certification. Thank you for doing that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to showcase a couple of additional pieces of functionality here, but please, if there's any questions, don't hesitate to bring them up right now. So how is it that we are able to do some of this development, and how is SNP Glue actually organized? Well, so there's 4 objects that are created with any given integration scenario. The first is going to be what we call our glue table. Now, the glue table is the target structure that we are creating on the target side. So this is what's driving our target structure inside of our Snowflake target. You'll see immediately we're identifying what the key fields are. We are helping Snowflake identify where to build micro partitions in order to be able to effectively manage, or most effectively manage the data. We are by default out of the box bringing across the SAP standard field names. And we have configurable data mappings. And so out of the box, we are automatically going to map the various data types that exist inside of your SAP investment into the proper data types for Snowflake. And probably the best example I'll give you here is going to be, you look at the specific date types that exist inside of SAP. Well, those date types don't really exist anywhere outside of SAP. And so it requires a little bit of automatic mapping and transformation to be most effective in Snowflake. Again, out of the box, SNP Glue is going to handle that heavy lift for you. But those translations are in fact configurable. So if there's something specific that you want to do in your organization, it is a capability that can be overridden and worked with on your side as well. Now you'll see there's 2 fields that I'm going to add in. The first is what I call my glue deletion flag. The second is the time change, okay? So that change time is pretty simple. That's my CDC flag. That tells me when changes were made. So that if we have multiple changes that flow in a row, you're able to look at them in kind of a breadcrumb trail methodology and be able to look at things and identify, hey, here's what data values were at a certain point in time. Here's my most current data value, however you want to make use of that. The other item, that glue delete field, is a huge differentiator. SNP Glue has the ability of true delta capture methodology. And what that means is that we have a full CDC capability against the persistent data stores inside of your SAP investment. So we can put triggers against the underlying tables through the application layer, including tables that if you're not yet on a HANA instance, if you're still sitting on ECC on a non-HANA backend, think about things like cluster tables, where BSEG is a representation of actually 5 or 6 database tables that exist on the database backend. We can, in fact, apply triggers to clusters. So if you want to change data capture BSEG, SNP Glue is actively being used in that specific activity at multiple customers across the globe right now. Now, where that delete flag is really important is that SAP is notoriously bad at being able to capture hard deletes, because the best practice is we shouldn't be deleting data from our SAP system. We should mark it as deleted, okay? But what happens when somebody actually does delete the data? Well, it tends to cause all kinds of pain and havoc inside of your data platform. SNP Glue is going to be able to capture those hard deletes that take place, and as a part of that CDC mechanism, will actually send you the record with a deletion flag activated. So at that point, it's up to you how you want to handle it on your data platform. Do you want to delete the data, mark it as deleted, or handle it in some other way? What we're doing is we're building you options and allowing you to handle things that way. Now, the other objects that we work with are going to be the fetcher. The fetcher is our object that allows us to be able to interface with and grab from a tremendous number of component types. In the course of this demo, we talked mostly about tables, but remember, anything from ADSOs to BEX queries to list cube or info cubes, on down the line to views, CDS views, whatever else. Any data that exists in your NetWeaver stack, we can integrate. The consumer is going to be the loose coupling between our extraction process and where we're actually writing it to. This is also where we have the opportunity to bring in our merge logic. Now remember, do you want to build an audit log of changes, or is it that you want to be able to merge data in and just have the most up-to-date copy? Well, you can manage that from SNP Glue. And then finally, our extraction process, which we talked about earlier, this is where our transformation and orchestration layer lives. So that was a very fast-paced presentation as well as demonstration. We're coming up at the bottom of the hour, so I want to wrap up. And so with a couple minutes left, Miranda, I'll hand it back over to you.
Great. This is a lot of great information here, and we have some very nice questions come in. First question, how can you filter data, ITAR data, divested businesses, GDPR, etc.?
Hey, that's a fantastic question. So there's actually a couple of different ways to be able to handle that. The simplest is going to be that within the actual fetcher structure, I don't know if you saw this, but I have the ability to build in complex filtering criteria right there. Alternatively, SNP as its heritage is actually in that SLO data management practice. That's really what our heritage is SAP data. And so we have the tools and capabilities of helping you be able to identify whether it be a divested organization, a company code that you're no longer working with, whatever it is, and make sure that we can filter through those options as well. So multiple different options for you, and would love to talk to you about them in greater detail.
All right, is it possible to transfer my existing SNP Glue objects to the new Snowpipe streaming?
So there's a couple of activities that are happening here. For the initial release, remember this is a new release that's coming out. We do want to make sure that this is we want to make sure that this is a purposeful event. And so on day one, you're definitely going to be managing from the existing object integration and then kind of manually recreating to the new one. Automation is coming down the pipeline for that activity, but as we roll this out to our customer base, we want to make sure that we're working through this purposefully while building in the automated backend alongside. So the answer is on day one, it's going to be a manual task. At some point in the near future, it will be automated. And that's our normal pattern for these types of innovations.
Excellent. We have one more question here. So what happens when you archive data in SAP? Using SLT, it deletes the archive record in the target system, which we don't want.
No, that's a great question. So again, I'm a big fan of creating options for people. What we're going to do is we have a couple of different patterns for identifying archived data. The most recent thing that I implemented for a customer was, remember that deletion flag that we just talked about? We'll actually use the transformation layer to flip that deletion flag to reflect it as an A for archived or something along those lines. And then at that point, you've still got all of your records that indicate that the data was deleted from your source system. It's properly notated so that you have the ability to have a downstream process. And you're saying you don't want to delete it from your data platform. Great. Now you can mark it as archived or notated appropriately inside of your classification structure.
Excellent, Ben. This is great. And if you're able to bring up that last slide with our contact details, I just want to point out we're at the top of the half hour, so we're going to wrap this up here. I know this was a lot of information to consume in just 30 short minutes, so we'll be sending you the PowerPoint via email. You can also peruse our video and product information libraries that I have hyperlinked here. So with that, thank you so much for your time today, everybody. Ben, you did a fantastic job. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you guys at the next webinar.
Hey, thank you so much.
Take care, guys.